Come get me, Wendigo. And welcome into the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard D. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Nice.
That is the appropriate intro. Thank you. I yell at Richard every time he opens his can somewhere in the middle.
Now every time I do it, I'm going to cough when I do it.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits. Early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. Help us keep this show ad-free. We get people all the time saying, hey, we want to talk about the Cybertruck. And I say, Elon, no, we don't do ads here, so fuck off.
It's specifically Elon.
It is.
He calls us and texts us.
It's very annoying.
At inappropriate times of the night.
It's very annoying.
How did you get this number?
We have news.
This is my burner.
We've got games. So Connor, you told me before the show
Yes.
you achieved something that I would never imagine achieving.
I got S+ rank on Leon.
Ooh, nice.
And
nice.
I got an S rank on Claire going through Leon's story, like Leon's side of the story. The not the second one. The
the arranged mode or whatever.
Yeah. And so now I got S on that, S+ on Leon. I'm going back through the second story for Claire, and I'm working on an S rank on that one. Because I couldn't be bothered to finding ammo, so I just grabbed the unlimited pistol I had. Because I was going to ultimately looking for all like the Mr. Raccoon bobblehead things.
Yeah.
The ones that I had missed on the other playthroughs. And
you call him Mr. Raccoon?
So there
I think that's what they're called.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you just messed up Mr. X in Raccoon City.
No.
Okay, sorry.
little Mr. Raccoon bobbleheads
Sure,
that are hidden around the map. And there was one that I missed in Claire's story in the second run, so I had to go back through that.
Yes.
I'm like, I'll just finish it and get the S rank on her, and then go back and because that gives you the infinite knife, and then just go back and do S+.
Did knives break in that one?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they didn't.
You get one knife, but you get multiple knives.
There's multiple knives.
You pick up knives, yeah.
But if you find all those little mechanical bobbleheads and break them all, get a knife.
Oh, I don't remember the knife breaking in Resident Evil 2. Yeah. Because I was always like, I would shoot a zombie in the knee and then I would knife it as it was like on the ground. To conserve ammo.
It's the special, like if you get like attacked, you
one of those.
those knives.
Okay, gotcha. All right, yes.
It's the same knife.
Yeah,
attacking them on the ground and pushing them off of you. But yeah, so finishing up the second run with Claire, and then I'm going to go with the infinite knife, and I'm thinking about trying hardcore with both of them.
And how's that different?
Well, you have to find ink ribbons to save.
Oh yeah.
To get S+ in that, you have to do it in
2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah.
And you can only have maximum 3 saves.
Right.
And the only infinite weapon you can use is the infinite knife.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
God have mercy on your soul.
And then I'm going to try for a knife only run.
When you get good at dodging those zombies, man,
I remember when Bloodborne came out, I remember seeing a tweet early on that was like, the new meta, rock only. You could like throw the rocks to like try and get enemies to break away from their groups or whatever, and it'd do like 2 points of damage or something like that. Okay, anything else, Connor?
No, that's been it.
Richard?
I'm playing a bit of Tekken 8.
Nice.
About
Okay.
Tekken 8.
I have heard that it's like phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's just
2 words.
It's
phenomenal.
It's good so far. It's crazy as you'd expect a 8th game in a franchise to be. There's a long running.
Not many games get to 8.
They don't. No, and this one's technically more than 8 because there's tons of others you got to count.
Let me rephrase that. Not a lot of American games get to 8.
Right, not a lot of American games get to 8, but there's a long running silly story with a familial bloodline and. It just won't end.
It was the Skywalker saga before the Skywalker saga.
Yeah. I usually have players that I pick and choose, but there's some newcomers this time around. And I am partial to picking women characters. I like them as characters more. They're a lot faster. They have cooler moves, flashier moves. But there's a girl named Azucena. She loves coffee. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh, relatable.
Yeah, relatable. right. And I started to learn her. And Tekken is not a game. Tekken is a more in-depth fighting game than others because there is not this. In Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, you have characters that have moves, and once you learn that move, you go, okay, I know what that is. I know that will happen every single time, and I can all reliable. I can count on every single time. Tekken's move list, characters have moves, but it's not something that you can just do sometimes. You have to include them into long strings of button presses.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Tekken has, whereas everybody has a 6-button layout, 3 punches, 3 kicks, low, medium, heavy. Tekken has 4. That square triangle would be left arm, right arm. X and circle is left leg, right leg. And so you have to learn how to string these combos because you can't just keep hitting somebody with one arm and expect it to do something. It would be like 1, 2, and then kick, and then that's why that's a little bit of the complications that come in from Tekken. So, and then learning timing is very important. I started training in doing combos with Azucena, and you can say, all right, show me how this move will look if you do it correctly, and do a replay of it. And so when you learn it, you start to find out that, like that certain attack isn't activating. Very quickly learn that you need to press those buttons at a very specific time. Character falling down so you can launch them back up or other things. Extremely in depth, but if you didn't know how to play Tekken, this is the great thing, you could just press buttons and it works. It works. Because a big thing about Tekken is also really reading your character, dodging that. So if you're erratic, then you probably have more or less a better chance of winning. But I have not done the story too much. I've only done a little bit of training and a little bit of they have 2 story modes. They have an actual story mode involving the characters. 3 story modes, I'm sorry. An overarching story with the characters. Then you have a kind of arcade story where you make your own little me looking avatar.
Oh, fun.
And you do a little story involving them, like going to arcades, learning how to play Tekken.
Oh,
and
cool.
Then taking down the top Tekken player. And then you have the ability to play 5 matches with any of the characters, and you gain their ending for them specifically.
Oh, interesting.
That kind of alleviates the having an end character in the main. There's a lot of content, and Tekken Ball is back, which is great. Tekken Ball is volleyball with Tekken characters, so
nice.
You perform moves to hit the ball back and forth. But there's a lot to it. I haven't really dug in much. It's good. It's very good.
It's interesting that last year Street Fighter 6 and then this year Tekken 8 seemed like they're both the best game in the series for a long time. At least the reaction. I don't play fighting games a lot. I don't follow Street Fighter or Tekken, but it seems like both games are garnering the reviews and the praise that we haven't seen from those series in a while.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope though because we can oversaturate the market very quickly.
Mm-hmm. It's also interesting that growing up, I actually experienced Tekken first as an arcade game.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Before a console game, because I can remember some of my earliest memories of going to pizzerias. We growing up in the town that we grew up in, there were a couple pizzerias that we would go to, and they had pretty big arcades. Mm-hmm. And Hydro Thunder was one.
Yeah,
that was
such a good game.
Played Hydro Thunder before I played it on a console. I played it on an arcade, and Tekken was the other one. I knew what Tekken was as an arcade game before I whoa, it's on a console too. That's weird. Kind of a cool little.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. There is something cool about arcades, about an arcade machine, right? Maybe it's just because I completed the Atari 50, but it's just I don't know, seeing the design and how they and how like a 4-player arcade machine, like the one that Atari made where each player has a steering wheel and it's all these cars and it's around a screen and everybody's looking down at the screen. It's an entire game console made for one specific thing. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of neat to find
arcade machines are really interesting. They're really cool.
They are very cool. And then it's actually very stunning with you. We haven't dug into it, but I know we have the Pi. But when you open up MAME, which is the arcade emulator, and see how many arcade games they created, I don't know where they all went. Like, that's how many they've created, and it's crazy because there's still stuff I've never even seen. Well, of course I can't because there's too much of it.
Yeah, and the experience of that, we're going to talk about preservation later, but the experience of playing an arcade is fundamentally different than the experience of playing on a console, right? And so it's like some games we will never get. You like playing Hydro Thunder, playing the arcade version of Hydro Thunder. I will never ever like experience that again unless I go out into the world and I find a Hydro Thunder cabinet somewhere. But other than that, it's like, yeah, I have a PlayStation disc, Hydro Thunder. I can play an emulated version. But like the sitting in that seat with your hands,
it's
in that
entirely
cabinet.
different visceral experience.
Yeah, and not to mention, I think it's also interesting. You're in a public place usually, so maybe you're with friends or whatever. So it's like the entire scene is something that is a way to experience games that you're never going to. That is difficult to come across, I guess.
Kids these days.
Yeah, just like with that Atari game with the, I forget what it's called, but with the racetrack, and you had a bunch of players surrounding it. Yeah. Anyway, waxing poetic about arcade machines. Anything else, Richard?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, so I completed the Atari. I went through, very neat, very good. I learned a lot. I came away with a I always was like, yeah, Atari is one of the greats, but it's one of those things where you learn a little bit more about it and you're like, holy shit, they were one of the greats. And it's too bad to see them go away because Atari is old, but they're not the company's not that old. I mean, it's 50, but what I'm saying is like the home console version came out in the late 70s or whatever. But like a lot of their contemporaries are still around today. Sega doesn't make consoles anymore. Nintendo, right? So it's like you wonder if there's an alternate history where Atari is competing with PlayStation 2 and Xbox with their latest console or something like that. But yeah, you had certain decisions. They tried to compete with Apple, like computers. They tried to branch out and take and go from like being a video game centric company to a more generic computer centric company. And I guess the decision making back then was different because back then the home computer, you didn't really have the internet, so it was like you bought programs for everything. So I assume it was much closer to the experience of buying a game because you had to buy programs, or like there was a commercial for a map of the 50 states and it had all the capitals on it, and that was like a box that you bought just like you would buy a game. So I guess it kind of makes sense because why, if you're going to code games, why can't you just code this information database and throw it into a box and sell it like a game or whatever? But yeah, they had trouble competing with Apple, and then what was the other? IBM? What was the other? Oh, Commodore. Commodore was the other.
Commodore,
but the Commodore was did they branch out into PCs? I don't remember.
Commodore was PC.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Commodore was a PC, yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, really interesting to see that, to see the interviews.
I'm glad more people can know about Trevor McFur and the Crescent Galaxy, though, because I always reference that. Nobody ever gets it on the Atari Jaguar.
Which one is that again?
Anthropomorphic, like tiger, and like he's another chick. And
I do remember that
shooter.
now.
Yeah,
I do remember that. Was that the last game that was made for it?
that was one of the two launch games.
Okay,
Jaguar.
I remember the box art when you described it. I remember the box art now. Okay. Yeah, and there was a bunch of other interesting stuff. I noticed there was some of the ads they put out back then. Whoa!
Yeah, they're dated. They're fun. They're dated.
They're dated. Yeah. But one of the ads, what was it? I noticed in the background. Oh, it was like, so today you'll see somebody tries to make something nostalgic, right? And so you'll see like an image of a kid in the 80s, and on the wall they'll have Back to the Future, Star Wars, whatever, you know. But there was an ad with a kid playing one of the Atari consoles, and it was an ad from the 80s, and that ad he had like I think it was a Back to the Future poster in his room on the ad, and I was like, oh shit, like this looks like an image someone would make today to make you nostalgic for the past, but that was like a contemporary advertisement.
It's funny now because after playing Atari 50, walk around my store and I will see things like Star Raiders or Earthworld and stuff like that. And every time I do now, instead of like, I never had disgust for it, but there's just so much of it. I have so much of it that I'm just like, get it out of here. But now I kind of like with specific things I'll look at, and I'll kind of have that Robert Redford gif. Him like smiling.
The nod.
Yeah.
Like just
you have a little bit more, when you learn about more of the context and you see the faces behind
who made
some of the ideas and stuff. And I think that's the case with a lot of art.
Yeah.
You see a painting and you're like, oh, okay. And then you learn about the artist and their life, and you kind of see where it arose from. And when you hear about the story of Atari and all the things they did and all the people, and how it's like coaching trees in the NFL. It's like how many people, Tim Schafer, Cliff Bleszinski, other people who like started off buying Atari or not coding. What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, coding. Like coding games, trying to figure out how to engineer something on their Atari 2600 or whatever. It's like, wow, like the influence it had. And then people today are still, and that's for multiple consoles. Yeah. But I think one of the founders of Digital Eclipse, they made with the guy that wrote Ready Player One.
Yes. God damn it, I forgot his name.
Oh, and one thing that I thought was crazy that I did not know was with speaking of Ready Player One, was there was a Atari sweepstakes contest thing that it was sort of Earth, sort of Wind, sort of Fire, something like that.
Oh, it's Earth Quest.
The Earth Quest, and they hid Easter eggs in the games. And if you found the Easter eggs, you got to go to some competition, and you had a chance at winning like
$75,000,
a bunch of money or something like that. And so they had this page where it listed all the people that had figured. I mean, straight out of like a Ready Player One, a cheesy movie about a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory type thing, where it's like, oh man, I found the code in the video game, and I get to go to the factory where they make stuff or whatever. I thought that was crazy because that wouldn't fly today, because as soon as it hit the internet, some guy'd be like, oh, I discovered it in 5 seconds, because people would just data mine it. But anyway, that was a lot of fun to play that. A few other things. What was I going to go to? Oh yeah, so let's talk about short message, Silent Hill short message.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, now let's talk about Portal. Let's talk about Portal Revolution. Short message is not very good, and it's disappointing. There's a lot of things people are saying about it. I do think that there's this phrase trauma porn, right? Mm-hmm. Where instead of you take a subject like child abuse, or you take a subject like teenage suicide, and what do you want to learn from that? How do you want to discuss it? How do you want to work it into a narrative? That's not easy. It's difficult. But I do think there is something annoying about, and maybe this was always the case, but I feel like there are stories or whatever where the point of bringing these things up is not to contextualize them. It's just to make things sad for no reason and give it no other. And I think short message does that. I think it wants to talk about it. I think it probably comes from a real place, all these things, but it doesn't. It's so poorly written and blunt, and it holds your hand and it spells everything out. There's no subtlety whatsoever. And it's kind of disappointing. And when I think about Silent Hill 2 was so cryptic and weird that I'm still I only played it once, and I'm going to play it again, but it's like I still think about scenes from that game, and it's like, what were they trying to do? There was one part that was really haunting, is when I forget the woman's name, but there's this woman James keeps encountering. Maria. And the last time you see her, she climbs upstairs, and the stairs are on fire, right? And it's just like this really, and it's not even that big of a set piece. There's not a lot going on. The colors are really drab. The room's full of smoke, but it's just she slowly walks up this staircase. Staircase is on fire.
Yeah.
The building you're in doesn't make sense because there's like doors and walls and places they shouldn't be. And that was such a poignant like shot to see, right? Regardless of interpretation, just to see the design of it, it's like, holy shit, that feels impactful. And that, it's PlayStation 2. When you play something like Short Message, which is, I'm not sure which engine it's on, but it visually it looks good, but artistically it's very boring. You're in an apartment building. It's very generic. You're holding a phone. Your flashlight doesn't give you a lot of light. But it's just there's no like inspiration behind anything. Eventually a monster comes after you, and it's not fun because if the monster kills you, you just have to go through the monster part again, and that's just annoying.
Okay.
So I ended up not finishing the game. I think I got close to the end, and the monster, there was this difficult part where to get past the monster was a little more difficult the last time, and it killed me a couple times, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I wasn't enjoying the game. I was trying to get through it because I enjoyed it, but I was like, I'm not gonna finish this. I didn't like it at all. So yeah, disappointing. It's annoying because PT was so good, and I think this game wants to emulate PT in some ways, but just can't. There are some like loop elements to the game.
Everybody's trying to chase that PT high.
Yeah, and still to this day. And I think it's no exaggeration to say PT is one of the greatest horror games ever made, even though it's
not a game,
an hour long.
It's like an experience.
Yeah. It's more of it's the beginning of a trailer, essentially. But when you think about like what PT did, where it didn't say anything, you heard stuff on the radio, you sort of piece things together. It let the tension build. That hallway was just like a normal hallway, and eventually it just felt so sinister after a while, as opposed to like mundane abandoned apartment buildings, which are kind of dumb. But anyway, is it Unreal 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So again, you have Resident Evil 2, which was made on a potato, and I mean Silent Hill 2, made on a potato. And you have this shot that just plays in my head all the time. Because it has nothing to do with the visual fidelity, it just has to do with the art direction. And then you have Unreal 5's Short Message, which is completely forgettable. Even though it's made on Unreal Engine 5, which is this incredible engine that does incredible visuals, and I'm just not going to remember it whatsoever. So it's like, So that's what I have to say about that. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no, it was just relating to a joke, but it's kind of relating to how PT is, and nobody can catch that high. And it's, obviously PT was made with the help of several different creators who were all, I'm going to say, like-minded.
Sure.
And so the atmospheric storytelling was really well done, but with the release of Short Message, there's been a joke that has been rehashed and regurgitated of I forgot which game it was, but it's you walk by a chalkboard and it's like someone wrote "We are all dead" on it, and it's just like atmospheric storytelling, and it's kind of like it brought back that up because it was kind of force fed or just hit you over the head instead of something like PT where the skill is slowly brought forth.
Yeah.
I don't play horror games a lot. I'm not terribly interested in a lot of them. I like the action-oriented horror games, Resident Evil, Dead Space, stuff like that. But with something like Silent Hill, even I know with Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 1, there's something to be talked about regarding the content in that game and whatever trauma is experienced or what you figure out by the end of the game, and the allegories to whatever else the game is trying to tell you that no one else has been able to really hit on, because they're so focused on trying to, I want to scare people, and they kind of jump the gun.
Yeah.
Just provide, the jump scares instead of actually trying to build and everything. So.
Yeah, and ambiguity generates interest, right? if you have a line and in the middle there's a gap, it's like, what's there? What is supposed to be there? And if all you do are just give ambiguous answers, that generates like intrigue and mystery and suspense and tension, and you want to find what is there. And that's what's great about Silent Hill 2 is that it is ambiguous and weird and surreal, and or the works, or like Twin Peaks or whatever. That's one of the things I like when Alan Wake 2 doesn't explain things. It just lets you think about them. And that's when I don't like Alan Wake 2, when it's like, oh, but wait a second. The FBC has this piece of paper that explains everything. It's like, well, I don't want that, damn it. But that's their creative decision, whatever. It's not as bad as Short Message, where it's like every 20 minutes, it's like, here's the lore of the building. It's like, I don't need the lore of where I am. Yeah. It's supposed to be a surreal horror experience. You don't need to explain. Anyway, okay, one other game. Portal Revolution is a fan-made Portal game. And I'm here to tell you guys, it is good enough to be a Portal spinoff DLC. It is phenomenal.
Not Portal 3 spin-off DLC.
Because it's a different character and stuff.
I know.
What was it? Blue something? Blue Protocol for like Half-Life?
Oh,
or what was that?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yes. Was that not like a licensed thing? Blue Shift? Half-Life Blue Shift? I don't remember.
Looking at Blue Shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember if that was a fan.
Oh, it's an expansion. Sorry.
Okay. No, but it's free on Steam. Portal Revolution. Go play it. It's phenomenal. It's very good. Some of the puzzles are pretty tricky. It has, I think it has some new gameplay mechanics that have never been in Portal before. It has some new concepts that I don't remember being in Portal. It takes place after Portal 2, which is important for some things. But it's free on Steam. I don't think it's Source. I think it may be Source 2, because it looks pretty good if it's still on the Source engine. Although the Source engine isn't bad. So it may be the Source engine, I don't know. But if you've got time, it's fairly long. It's free. Go check it out. I think it's probably going to be one of this year's best games. And it's a fan-made game. I'm not sure. I don't know the story. I don't know who made it. But it's got really nice voice acting in it. It's got great level design. Go check it out. And with that,
if this is going to be one of this year's best games, how come I've never heard of it until now?
If it's so great, why isn't there a Portal Revolution 2?
If it's so great, how come someone hasn't brought it into the store yet and said they wanted $300 for it? Am I right?
Oh, it's a mod.
Do you see this engine there?
Well, if it's a mod, I'd assume it's Source, right?
Yeah. If it's okay, then it would have to be Source.
Source 2.
It looks pretty good. Wait. So Source is still around, right?
Or Source is Source 2 now.
Or did they upgrade it like they did with Counter-Strike? I don't remember now. I don't know. Can you still get Source? Someone tweet at me. You can still get it, or maybe I'll look it up.
You definitely can get Source Filmmaker. Don't ask me how I know.
Hit the ad. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. Okay, so Spec-Ops The Line has been delisted for licensing. The delisting was first noticed by Wario64, who knows all. Corey Davis, Spec-Ops The Line's director, said on Twitter, quote, "Devastating personally, but also for those who poured their souls into its creation alongside me as developers and for the gaming community at large. This is not the end for Spec-Ops The Line." In a statement to PC Gamer and maybe other outlets, I just saw it at PC Gamer first, a 2K spokesperson said, quote, "Spec-Ops The Line will no longer be available on online storefronts. The several partnership licenses have related to the game are expiring. 2K would like to thank our community of players who have supported the game, and we look forward to bringing you more offerings from our label throughout this year," and blah, 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 blah. If you own it, you can still play it. I believe I own it on Steam. I don't remember. Maybe,
I own it. Yeah.
Connor, I think maybe you own it.
Yeah.
We family share.
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, it has, like, as PC Gamer pointed out, the the main menu has the Jimi Hendrix version of the Star Spangled Banner, which is very right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is very famous. And so there's probably like there's and
Yeah,
there's
he didn't
other
make that
songs.
song though.
He made it better.
but
he
he
made it
perfected
more.
it.
He made it more
Yeah.
honest. He made it more honest. But yeah. Anyway, okay. So there's preservation. I don't think we've ever talked about Spec-Ops: The Line on the show. Maybe a little bit.
We haven't
Yeah.
like.
I think we've
in
referenced
depth.
it.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
so
we
let's.
in depth.
I don't know. I kind of wanted to talk about this because I do think it's a good.
It ain't gonna be
game. What is that?
I said it ain't gonna be good conversation.
Oh well, it's not gonna be happy. Yeah, I thought you were saying it's not gonna be a good game, which was funny because you were contradicting me as soon as I said that.
I
But
mean,
no,
the game is
conversation.
good.
But, okay, go ahead. You guys, go ahead. Go.
Oh,
Talk.
I hate the game.
Oh.
I think it's a good game, but I hated the story and I hated the presentation of it.
Sure.
I get it begrudgingly. I get it, but my logical brain like nitpicks as like this doesn't make sense, and it's not supposed to. But whatever, dude.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't played it in a while.
I haven't played it in a while either, admittedly.
But I do remember because I remember
played it when it came out.
But I. So we're talking about the
decade
white.
ago.
I know.
Might want to retouch.
But it's the white phosphorus part, right?
Yeah.
Because
It's the whole lead up to that part too.
the idea is you are. I think you're supposed to be Delta Force or something, and you're American Special Forces.
Going into Dubai.
And it's very similar to Heart of Darkness, right? A descent into evil, into craziness, right? And obviously you have stuff like Apocalypse Now, which is already a Heart of Darkness, but it's set in Vietnam. So yeah, it's set in Dubai. And yeah, there's this part. I don't remember exactly what all happens leading up to White Phosphorus, but you have to, as you play the game, to progress, to get to the next part of the game, you have to activate the white phosphorus. Right?
Yes.
And then the game tries to, like,
Oh my God! Look what you did.
yeah, it's there's like a condemnation there about it, even though you as a player were present saying, but I don't want to do this, but I have no other option. So that's where the morality sort of, the bottom falls out of it in a sense.
Yeah.
That's one reading. I have not played it in a while. I think another reading is that the main menu has the American flag upside down, right? And talk about spelling things out. Upside down American flag in the Jimi Hendrix version in the background. I mean, it's not exactly the most patriotic thing.
Yeah.
So could it have been a condemnation of American militarism in general and not necessarily of the player's actions?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't played it in a long time, but I do think Spec-Ops: The Line was valuable for, I don't know, for being sort of just a regular shooter that did something like that. Obviously, games have talked about violence for a long time, sometimes not in great, intelligent ways, but like Metal Gear Solid has. But Metal Gear Solid isn't all that approachable, right? Because at the same time that it wants to talk about American espionage, there's like a guy in an outhouse farting or something like that. So it's doing all these different types of things. So it's kind of difficult to juggle all that. Where this was specifically a game that was very straightforward. Your special forces going to do a mission.
Yeah.
And then things slowly spiraled and became more terrifying. And I would love to see an updated version of it. Like if they remade it or something.
Yeah, I think if they do a remaster, I think it would do very well. I remember, and this is part of the problem that I have with it, because I remember that the game marketing and up until playing the game, they made an extremely persistent conversation about how the choices you made in the game were very hard and they really mattered, and whatever you did would affect something else. And throughout the game, up until the white phosphorus part, you always were presented with that.
Oh, I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, like you can shoot down that guy, the soldier who's right there. Like you can shoot him down, like to help him out, but all the guys would shoot you, so you'd have to figure out like how to. I remember that part. Anyways, but you get to the white phosphorus part, and you and your squad mates do have an active conversation that's like, well, we can use this, or we can go down there and fight, and they imply that it's going to be a hard fight, like, and you might not survive or whatnot, but it'd be a hard fight. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go fight. And they're like, well, no, you have to use the white phosphorus.
Yeah.
And so you use the white phosphorus, and then it's like, oh my God, what did you do? And it's like, well, you forced me to. And like, and I know that's the point, but it still is like with all of the like,
Sure.
the beats up until that point, it was just like, oh, okay, well, for me, that part fell flat because it was like, oh, all right.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's not to mention also, because I get it, I know it's the point, but at the end, it shows, you know, the main character has gone crazy at that point, and it shows every single thing he did throughout the game that was crazy, quote unquote, like talking to nobody there on the comms, but your guys are watching you like, what are you doing? And it's like, well, what, like, you see he's actively going crazy. Why is nothing being done about this?
Yeah.
And so that, all of these things like just kind of like really irked me, and I was just like, well, this is stupid.
Yeah. And I think
it's just, like, yeah, I took things literally.
Well,
like,
no, I don't think you're wrong. I think that's valid criticism, and it's not that I think the game was brilliant either. But maybe what I was trying to put earlier was I think it was the closest thing we've had to like a mass market, casual shooter.
Yeah.
That went the opposite way of like a Call of Duty. Because then in Call of Duty, you're a Marine in the Middle East and you have no idea why you're there. It's just like, I guess I'm just here. Okay. And then in battle,
I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here. All I know is I must kill.
Yeah. And there's no, and the same thing with the Battlefield games. You're in a Middle Eastern city. It's like, oh, okay, we must be the good guys. There's no conversation. It's just very generic and no conversation whatsoever. And that wasn't because I think they were trying to get a message across or anything. I think it was just it was a bias. It was, well, we set games in the Middle East because we were fighting in the Middle East, so that's where we set game, and that's as like complex as it got, at least up until the Modern Warfare remake. But this was like a mass market game that did something like that, and you know, I think if today, if Naughty Dog took a swing at something like that, I think it could be really good. Or a studio like that, they took a shooter, made an Apocalypse Now style Descent, actually added in some interesting commentary about American militarism and whatnot. That could be really interesting. Is it belabored at this point? I don't think it is. No, but I think it's an interesting concept.
Yeah. I think it's hard to do that or to talk about things like that because I kind of I think with The Last of Us, we talked about where you mentioned Naughty Dog, and with The Last of Us, the first game was very good, but it was also quite basic. Like, it did have things to say, but its story was very basic. But that allowed everyone to enjoy it and to play it. Then in the second game, they decided, okay, here's the message, or like here's what we're trying to like convey or show. And I don't think if you were to, people would buy it because it's Naughty Dog, obviously, and they want to wait for the next Naughty Dog game. But I think audiences, depending on who you're aiming for, have a hard time stomaching things or understanding things. And that's why we have certain instances of like beating over the head with things.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah, and I'll use Barbie as an example because, you know, you have people that's like, yeah, I get it, and it's like, yeah, you get it because no one else does. Like they forced the message because not a lot of people get it. Like, so you may be contrarian and like, yeah, I totally get it, but like a lot of other people don't, and that's why they have to do that. So I think Naughty Dog, if they wanted to do something like that, would have to create a first game that's kind of like the hook.
Sure.
And then the second game, like let it all loose.
Yeah. But anyway. Oh, and then on the preservation side of things, can we figure out licensing? How do we do this?
Yeah.
What do we do? Because it just seems like we landed on the moon in 1969. We can destroy ourselves with bombs that we made. Can humanity not figure out how to keep? How about we do this? If you can't pay for the licensing, you put it online for free. No one makes money off of it. Is that possible? No one.
That way it's fair for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, you would still need to get the license.
Damn it. Okay, so we had a roadblock there.
Yeah.
Because you're still using other people's work.
Yeah. You still have to license the art.
How much, Connor, I know this is curveball, but do you know how much in license for this kind of thing might be?
Oh, it varies wildly from song to song. Like it could be the lowest that I know of is 9 cents per performance. And a performance in this case would be a sale. So there were like 3 songs that were listed in the article, I think. So you're looking at 27 cents needs to be sent to, in this case, Universal Music Group, per purchase of
the game.
But that has to be renewed, right?
Yes, after a certain period of time.
And there's a cost associated with that renewal?
Well, I shouldn't say that's how it works because, it again, case by case, sometimes you're paying an upfront fee, sometimes you're paying per performance, sometimes it's somewhere in between. But yes, there's a renewal period if that's in the agreement. Again, this is a very complicated legal contract like issue, more than just, well, why didn't they just say okay? Yeah, because there's estates that are involved, the Hendrix estate. And so you have to deal with multiple people, deal with a giant record label that's wanting to squeeze every cent out of every deal they can to all play nice. But there is one like way to where this wouldn't happen. But this one trick to get music on your game forever. But honestly, labels don't like it, and it's having the length of the license be in perpetuity, which just means forever. But then they can't renegotiate.
So, all right. Well, I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but it just seems like that because music labels are like some of the worst organizations on earth. It's like terrorists, and then people that chew with their mouth open, and then music labels right there. So the association that all the music labels belong to that also deals with like film, and it's like a large legal association. The acronym for their name is Mafia. I did not know this.
Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
Yes.
That seems made up. That's kind of funny. You don't have to look it up. I believe you.
Right. That's not a joke. It is. They are. It's not spelled exactly Mafia. Stylized out to be Mafia, but
right.
Yeah. They're not good people to deal with because they're just going to try and renegotiate. For example, again, bring up Universal Music Group. A lot of music just got pulled off of TikTok because Universal Music Group wanted to renegotiate their license with TikTok, and TikTok didn't want to give Universal Music Group that much money. And so time ran out, and now all the music was pulled off of. And
Universal Music Group is one of probably very few companies. Yeah. So we're talking about much like a lot of other sectors in our economy. We have a couple big behemoths that dictate so much of what can and can't be done in a legal arena.
Yes, and their legal grasp extends outside of their company because of subsidiaries and companies that are owned through subsidiaries. There are independent artists who are being put out. They're putting their music out through like just publishers, not like they're not signed to a label or anything. They're just publishing their music. And because Universal Music Group has a stake in that publishing company, their music's also getting pulled.
Yeah, because they buy stock in it or something like that. Yeah. Oh man, that's just the worst. Mm-hmm. That's just the worst. And it just annoys me that this game has to disappear because a couple assholes at some fucking company somewhere. I have a lot more sympathy for estates and artists because they actually made the stuff. Mm-hmm. So you got to figure out how to pay them, you know? And I would respect if Jimi Hendrix were still around and they were like, and Jimi Hendrix was like, I'm not getting paid anything for my song being in this game. Like I'd be a lot more sympathetic to that. But we're talking about cultural, but we're talking about massive companies with faceless, near inhuman people that control it. And shit like this happens. And, you know, it's not like yes, there's a lot of legal stuff to it. There's a lot of stuff that it's a bunch of people that their hands are tied. But at the same time, you know, maybe we should look at what's that? What's the law for monopolies again? What's that called?
Antitrust laws.
Antitrust laws. Maybe we should do that as a society, and maybe we should iron some of these things out. In the meantime,
Well, I mean,
I don't ever want to hear that piracy is immoral, because I think a lot of these people probably could solve these problems, but they're not going to. So the last resort is piracy, and until you fix that, I don't want to hear anything about it. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say antitrust laws really wouldn't work because it's several companies that are just working together. It's not a single
Yes.
company that's making all these decisions.
Yes, and I'm sure
Kind of like airlines, how they all compete but they don't compete.
and I'm sure they all have congressmen
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that they throw money at, and it all sucks. And anyway,
Quote George Carlin.
it's all bullshit. Okay, are we ready to move on here?
Do it.
State of Play. Did you guys watch State of Play?
Yeah,
I did not.
watched it.
All right, let's talk about favorite State of Play. Go, Richard.
Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah?
Game looks fucking awesome. I never played that. I only played the first one for like 20 minutes. So,
Same here.
but I do have several people I know who are very into that game and have been for a while. I mean, I think, although it's not in the discussion much, I know people have spent just as much time on Dragon's Dogma that they have on Skyrim.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So I know that there are people who really like the game, and this one has the potential to hit very well.
There are dozens of us.
Dozens.
Yeah.
And they had a great showing. I think they had a great showing.
Dragon's Dogma 2, Dragon's Dogma has always been like a cult hit, I think.
Yes.
And I have played I remember you could climb on monsters. That was the big thing. You could climb on monsters and like hit them with your sword and stuff. But yeah, I never got very far into it. Maybe, when does Dragon's Dogma 2 come out?
March.
Okay, so I'm not going to beat Dragon's Dogma before the second one comes out. Not going to happen. Death Stranding 2 just looks fucking ridiculous.
Here's my take about Hideo Kojima. Is he needs someone on his team who's willing to tell him no.
No, he doesn't. No, screw that. I say let the man go wild. We got Death Stranding, which is the worst, best video game ever made. Okay, I don't want to hear we need to tell Kojima no. All right, we need to tell Kojima more. Say, Kojima, you're not good enough. Kojima, name a movie. You've never seen a movie before. That's what I want to do with Kojima. What do you not like about Death Stranding 2 besides that Troy Baker's coming back as the Joker?
I don't know. It just the absurdity that was the lead up to Death Stranding, the first one, where nothing made sense and it didn't seem like there was a coherent thought being put together in this game. And now this, and you have a villain with a chainsaw guitar that shoots lightning. It's like, what?
That's a problem. I mean,
someone needs to be like, all right, let's like focus in on something and actually like build ideas instead of picking 8 ideas, smashing them together and shipping it out and doing that every time we want to develop a new character.
So, okay. And it's okay. Here's something you were correct about. Death Stranding was not the most intelligently written story of all time. It had a lot of themes it wanted to hit on. And Kojima has said this, and other developers have talked about it, that they view themselves as entertainers and artists. And you have to balance that. So, as an artist, you want to talk about divisions. You want to talk about isolation. So you make Death Stranding. As an entertainer, you also like motorcycles. So how do you bridge the gap there, right? And Kojima doesn't always do it in ways.
Bridges reference.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing: if you can't find a good way to bridge it, someone needs to say no.
Okay, well,
You can have both. You can have your artistic liberty and your your ability to entertain. That doesn't mean you need to connect those two every single time you're doing something.
You just explained art house films.
Yeah, see, I don't know. When I have played Death Stranding twice, I think it's great. And I can sit here, I will say I have made a 40-minute video about it. I can tell you everything that's
Death
bad
Stranding
about
has
Death
no
Stranding.
haters. I'm dead. All right. I'm the
it's
number
just-
one Death Stranding hater.
And nobody played Death Stranding and thought that was a genius, perfect masterpiece.
No, there had to have been.
Well, I'm sure there were like a couple people out there, but that's like saying there's nobody that thinks the sky is green, and there's like, well, some random guy does, I bet. It's like, okay, well, he doesn't fucking count, okay? Yes, there are people on the internet that think Death Stranding is perfect. There are people on the internet that think Nintendo should be president, just the company Nintendo, but they don't count when we're having reasonable conversations about things. So I don't think anybody reasonable actually believes that Death Stranding was perfect or a masterpiece. It wasn't. A lot of it was bad shit stupid. But I think it's also incredibly unique. And I think Sam Lake is like this too, and Remedy. A lot of people don't like things that Remedy does, but Remedy's like the only developer that does them, right? Or that tries certain things. And you could... That's a real conversation there. So like with Death Stranding, I think the open worlds was really unique because other open worlds bombard you with things, or you have to react to them. So you take 5 steps in a Far Cry open world, and there's terrorists in a truck shooting rockets at you or something. You can't go anywhere without there being the fucking Battle of the Bulge happening around every corner. Death Stranding, you had to go into places. The mules, the people that had lost their minds, the human enemies. They stayed in their camps. They didn't patrol. The BTs, they were also in their zones. So it was like you had to find your way through this world that you imposed on, as opposed to, in Skyrim, something happens to you while you're on the road. There was none of that in Death Stranding. And I thought that was really unique, especially for a big game like this. I think some of the things it didn't do well was it was too easy. I wish there was more. Like the famous thing is there's early on in the game in Death Stranding, there's a canyon, a really deep canyon, and you got to take a box from one side of the canyon to the next. So it's like, okay, gonna build a bridge. This will be fun. You're gonna make a bridge. And then if you look to the right, 100 meters away, you could just follow this canyon until it goes down into the ground and go around the canyon, and you're fine. And it takes you like 2 extra minutes. So it's not really that big of a deal. So the game's too easy in that regard because it gives you too many ways out. And I want to have to build the bridge or think of creative ways through things. And I have. There are some parts in Death Stranding where it's like I had a box with me and I could go super long way around a river, or I could try walking through the river. So it's like as you walk through the river, Sam gets tired. You have to stop. You don't know if you're going to make it because you have all the different things. And that creates emergence. It creates adventure. And I've never had that in an open world because the stakes are low because your deliveries aren't going to be the end of the world, but they're constantly high because you only have one shot for that delivery, right? So if you fail, it's like you don't get another shot at that delivery. It's okay. You can go back and grab other things to do. But anyway, I'm just
now I accept I accept everything you say. Let me talk. I accept everything you say, but that still doesn't reinforce the point for artistic value and entertainment value. Again, the two aren't intrinsically linked. You don't if you are, making your game super artistic and super interesting in that way, cool. If it's just pure entertainment, cool. You can bridge the two together, but you don't need to link everything together all the time.
But why not? Like, why can't an artist do things certain way? Cormac McCarthy doesn't put punctuations in his books. Fucking Ernest Hemingway only wrote 3 words in every sentence. like why can't you do things like that? I think you're correct that some of the style is obnoxious.
Yes, and that's really what I'm getting towards. When I say someone needs to be there to tell Kojima no, he needs to be able to do his vision, but also do it within the bounds of, like, not necessarily the bounds of a good game, but like in a way that helps shape the game to be better. Just throwing in random shit like and I know this is the second time I brought this up, but a chainsaw guitar. Why? You can ask me 100 times, why does it need to be there? I don't need to prove why it doesn't need to be there. Give me a good reason to why it is there.
Do you want me to respond to this?
Go ahead.
Okay, because there is nothing wrong with the end. And we'll go on to the other games. Shut up, Richard. because I think it is a valid response to say because it's cool. I think sometimes artists in any field, they just want to create something. Doesn't have to have meaning. Rock's got no meaning. Rock's got no rhyme. You better get me to school on time. I just quoted Jack Black, okay? Doesn't have to be a meaning. It's got to say something about the aesthetics, or it's just cool. Okay, I'll give you the last point. We can talk about other games.
I think when you're creating a narrative for people to be in, if they ask legitimate questions about why is this here, and your answer is, I just thought it was cool, if it sticks out from the narrative to a point where people are attaching to this point, like, why is this here? I think you need to readdress your writing.
Okay, I'll accept that. I mean, I disagree, but it's fine. Judas. Did we watch the trailer for Judas? What do we think about that?
Looks like BioShock.
Okay.
It is now the future version of BioShock.
Yeah.
With a commentary on,
social media.
Once
right?
again, social media and the internet and all that jazz. Yeah.
I'm a little worried about that. Because obviously BioShock Infinite's story was like its weak point. And I remember a lot of people, people make fun of the baseball thing. It's like, do you throw the baseball or not? It's like, okay, well, clearly the bad thing is to throw the baseball. This isn't like a brilliant morality tale, Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't know. Well, we're talking about like Silent Hill short message. This is actually something I think Death Stranding did really well, subtly. I think trying to figure out how to communicate misgivings about humanity's current connection to social media and online culture is just such a gargantuan task because it's so all-encompassing and so vulnerable to human bias and stuff, right? And so it can so easily become old man yelling at Facebook, as opposed to like a real psychological evaluation of what it does to us in our relationships. And maybe it's wrong to say that I'm worried. It could be amazing. It could be great. I don't know. But we'll just have to see. Yeah. But I think the gameplay looks great. I think the style looks great. As soon as I saw it, I was like, more BioShock. Hell yeah. That's going to be cool. And so I'm excited for that, but it still doesn't have a release date, I think. Legendary Tales is coming to PSVR 2, which is a VR game that I have not played, but I have it on my wish list. Metro Awakening. Oh my God. I cannot wait. Metro was one of those games a long time ago. I remember talking to people saying, I would love a Metro VR game. And here we are, and it's coming out this year. And it's one of those things that there's so many things that could work for Metro in VR. Like, I want to be able to put my gas mask on. I want to look at my watch. It's already there, right? You want to pull out your map and light your lighter to look at your map just like you do in the game.
Light your map on fire.
Light your map on fire. When you get blood or frost on your mask, I want to be able to wipe it off with my hand, right? Because Metro was all about immersion. You're never taken out of the game. There's no there's a pause menu, but there's no menu where if you go to your backpack, it's all real time. There's very little HUD. You don't have a ton of ammo, stuff like that. You find bullets and clips, and you have to, So, man, that makes me excited. I really hope they nail that because that's a series that I think is just made to be ported into VR because all the movement and stuff is there. Are you a fan of the Metro series? I know, Connor, you are, right?
Yeah.
Never played it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'd recommend the first and second one. Metro Exodus was okay.
I saw spiders and I said no.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of spiders in Last Light too.
Yeah.
A lot of them. You go into a nest at one point in Metro Last Light.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and it's the whole thing. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Helldivers 2 looks really good. Do you guys have any other games you want to talk about?
Silent Hill 2 looks very worrisome.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why?
Did you watch it?
I did.
Surprised you don't think so.
I mean, I saw it went third person.
It looks like Resident Evil 4. Just Resident Evil 4. But like PS2 Resident Evil 4. Not like good Resident Evil 4.
It's just
Silent Hill, I don't my opinion should be taken with a grain of salt because once again, I don't generally play horror games. I did play Silent Hill 2, played a little bit of Silent Hill 1, but the biggest thing for me that I think lends itself to the Silent Hill series, and I know we've gone past this style because it's no longer needed, is static camera angles. Because it lends to the aesthetic, it lends to the horror, it lends to all of that. When you take away that and create what I've seen in the Silent Hill trailer, I'm no longer scared is the thing. Like, and I watch that and I'm like, I have nothing to worry about if I play this game. And if I think that, then I also think that they may miss the mark with the messaging of the game as well. And it doesn't seem like I'm alone in that aspect, at least if the internet is to believe, which they never are. But and also, his hair is too blonde. God damn, it's like a flashlight.
I think it has to do with Bloober because Bloober is known for not. Medium is a famous game that a lot of people complain about how it handles certain themes of mental illness.
Yeah.
And I haven't played the Medium. I have played the Observer, which was not a great game. There's a lot of style, but not a whole lot of substance. In the middle of the Observer, you get a run and hide horror sequence, and it just kind of feels dumb. So I think that's probably what people are afraid of, is Bloober does not have a reputation of being like a horror geniuses, more of like great style, but then other than that, it's kind of vapid and dumb. I forget what her name, maybe Alyssa McIntyre, maybe Akataku, I don't remember who, wrote a really good review for what's that painting game? Layers of Fear. Yeah. Or it was like Layers of Fears or something. It was one of the ones that came out like last year, the year before. She has a really interesting, her review has an interesting discussion about the themes of Layers of Fear and how they have sort of this like edgelordy, or the game has like this edgelordy opinion of art that doesn't come across all that great. So I think that's what people are worried about, is the team that got it.
Yeah.
Isn't known for making great horror games.
They got it by begging.
So we'll have to see. And so there is I think already there is an attractive narrative in the game comes out, it's bad, and we know exactly why.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's no conversation to be had.
That is true.
And I think there are fair worries there. Yeah. I think some of that is just people are already setting it up to fail because they're annoyed about certain things. I do agree with you about the static camera angles. I guess when I watched it, I was more willing to I am more willing to play the game and see how it translates.
Sure.
And see what they do and see, what do you do? How do you handle fucking melee combat? Because the combat in Resident Evil, and goddammit, the combat in Silent Hill 2 was never that great.
It's not supposed to be.
But even then, I think some of it was just kind of labor tiresome. But I think the camera angle is the more important thing.
Yeah.
Because you could take the camera angle and you could rework the combat and things stay fine. But you take that camera angle down, third person, there's a bunch of stuff that's going to hit differently.
Yes. Because
there's a bunch of times where James walks into a room and you don't see something until you get to a point and the camera swaps to a new angle and you're like, oh shit, there's that over there. Yeah.
Yeah, that also is in it. Like I said, it's Resident Evil style. So James is off to the left and you see everything else on the right. So what you just mentioned, puzzle solving and like what you have to do, it's not just the combat, which is not what Silent Hill is known for. It's in the atmosphere and the puzzle solving. It's like, how does that change the approach for puzzle solving as well? When he's off to the side like that, I just think it's very off-putting.
And I think one thing that did come into my mind that for whatever reason kind of creeped me out when I played through it was the highway, when you run down the highway and the highway just keeps going and going and going. And I think at that point, maybe the camera does come down and follow James. I don't remember.
You do get to an end,
but yeah. So, but even then, the camera coming down and following James for the other parts of the game, it's static.
Yeah.
So when it does that, you know, oh, something's different is here. Why is it showing me the highway? Like, what's going on? Where a third-person camera is more standard, so that otherworldly feeling isn't quite there. Yeah. Anyway, anything else we want to talk about?
Do you think Until Dawn needs a remaster?
That's weird to me. I liked it. I don't have a problem with it, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I remember getting frustrated with the game because I made a choice, and then I'm just going to tell the story. I'm just going to tell the story.
Fine. It's been years.
So there's a part in the game where two of the... And is it the Unreal Dawn I'm thinking about? The one with Rami Malek?
Yeah.
Okay. Is he in it? Are they? Yeah. Did they bring all the actors back?
It's just remastered. Yeah.
But they didn't like reshoot it or anything. It's
Probably
just
not.
okay.
Not that I'm aware. Yeah.
So these two characters are at a table, and like one of them is getting chosen to be killed. It's very like Saw Screamish, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the character across from me asks the guy character to do something, and I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and do that. And so I do that action, but then the character got mad at me and I was confused. I was like, wait, what? And then all of a sudden, both those characters died. So I got annoyed. So for the rest of the game, instead of trying to save the characters, I did the thing that I thought would kill them. Because I was so annoyed with that point in the story. There was one point where you can shoot a character, and I shot the character straight in the face, and it turns out the character wasn't evil. But I was like, I don't give a shit anymore. This is annoying. Yeah. I'm bitter because of that one moment. Go ahead.
I remember when I played through it, I had a wired controller. And there's the moments where like, keep the controller still. And I was just shaking the controller all over the place because it doesn't have motion control. Yeah. And I'm like, come get you, Wendigo.
I forgot there was a Wendigo on that one too. Yeah, spoiler alert. Okay. Yeah.
Win every time. Works all the time, every time.
It is a really weird thing that they're remaking it, but that one always felt to me like and that game has that other actor in it. Oh, that actor is so great. At the very beginning, the guy that gets eaten by the tiny dinosaurs in Jurassic Park 2. What's his name?
Oh, Wayne Newton?
I don't think so.
No, not Wayne Newton. Oh my God, he's a singer.
No, that's Jurassic Park 1. You're thinking 1.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking 2. We got to get this guy's name. I know this is bad podcasting because we're just watching Connor type. He was in Jurassic Park 2. He was in John Wick 2. Mm-hmm. He's got like long hair, a beard. I think he always plays like a Russian.
Wait, I know.
I think I know who you're talking about. I think you're getting confused. Maybe.
No. I know for a fact it was this guy. Alice in Chains? Is that what you're doing?
The Man in the Box. Yeah, that's him.
What was his name though?
Peter Stormare.
Peter Stormare, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's because the game.
Only way I was able to find that is that scene from Armageddon. Parts from US, parts from Russia, all made in China.
I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. I think we're ready to move. Have you ever heard completely random? Have you ever heard like I just saw the clip of it, but like Ben Affleck has a commentary for Armageddon.
Yeah.
And he's talking about this
Wouldn't it be easier to train astronauts to drill than train drillers to be astronauts?
Yeah, and he's like, and these guys are NASA, and we're this movie is about NASA can't build a drill. How hard is it to build a drill?
Just point it at the ground.
Just point it at the ground. We're talking about NASA. like Ben Affleck's just ripping the movie apart. Anyway, okay. Random thing about Armageddon. Let me get back to my notes here. Okay, guys, Xbox. Thank you. Could bring more games to the PS5 and Switch. Rumors are going all over the place. Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush have been reported multiple places. Tom Warren's been writing a lot about it at The Verge. Xbox Era reported that they heard Starfield is going to come out this year, I think they said, on PS5.
After the expansion, the first expansion.
Okay, after the first expansion. And then Phil Spencer tweeted out, "We're listening and we hear you. We have been planning a business up." You know what, Connor? I said Phil Spencer.
Xbox.
Thank you. Said, "We're listening and we hear you. We've been planning a business update event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned." And that was Phil Spencer. Okay, so what do we think about this? Because we know Xbox has been platform agnostic, but this is like a totally new thing.
This is the next step.
So,
Or not. I don't want to say next step as if that was their
Well,
plan.
no, this
but
is the next step in their ethos is quantity is a quality of its own.
Right.
Okay.
And
Because they're just putting out everything forever, everywhere. And that's going to work for them.
yeah.
So all right. So then the next logical question is, what do you do with your plastic box then?
Make more.
Do you think?
I think
Because
that
not everyone has a gaming PC, so that's still going to be the only avenue for Game Pass for some people.
for some people, yes. And I do think that there are enough supporters that they can justify creating another plastic box.
Yeah.
But just solely focus on those, their little the ecosystem that they have created. Whether if they want to support it by making less consoles, to offset the cost of having stock just sit out, or actually that's the only point I made.
All right. So I think this is really interesting.
I think it's very interesting, yes.
Because owning a PC today is more accessible than it's ever been, right? Even more than like 10 years ago.
Way more than that.
You can get pre-mades. You can find them at Best Buy, whatever, right? You can get tutorials online. It's all much easier than it was, and PC gaming is easier today. I remember back in the day. I remember going to, what was that? You had to go to specific websites to get updates for games. I forget what the name was. It had Saturn as its logo. You had to go there to get the Battlefield updates, I think, or like driver updates and stuff. But now you have NVIDIA, Steam updates all its games for you. So there's a lot of automation there that you don't have to worry about that you had to back in the day. And now PC gaming is much easier. I wonder how many people that have never owned a PC and just have dabbled in consoles see this and go, maybe I'll just get into PC gaming because it seems like consoles are being less and less prioritized. And the other thing is, like, does Xbox speak? And I asked you this.
Yes.
History. Has there ever been like a what was it that I don't even remember the question that I asked.
Has there ever been a publisher or a console manufacturer that has kind of like gone into the publishing business?
Yeah, that had like that because so much of the console business comes down to exclusives and whatnot. But
or a publisher gone to make consoles. I think that was the one, because if we're talking consoles, the publisher, then Sega is the obvious answer.
Yeah, but they got rid of their console though.
They did get rid of the console.
So
so you're saying that like kept the console going?
Kept the console going for a long time.
I can't recall any. If so, NEC for the TurboGrafx, they created the console and they made games too. They published games.
The little Richard in your head had to walk through like the desert, up a mountain, dust off a tome.
I just had to walk to 1989.
Hold a candle to it like Gandalf. NEC, I found it. That's really impressive. No, it is.
I can name a lot more impressive consoles.
Frankly, it's attractive.
Thank you.
I do wonder if Xbox, because we know that they already have the less powerful console now compared to the PS5.
How dare you?
So as we move on with consoles, do they go the route? They can't go the route of Nintendo because Nintendo's too underpowered. So do they do a mid-range thing where they, instead of trying to like,
they do a budget thing? That's what they do.
Okay.
I agree with that. And for some folks, it's not attractive because when people come into the shop and they see that I have an Xbox Series S for $200, they go, "Wow, that's $200." I'm like, "Yeah, but it doesn't have the disc drive." And then they go, "Oh." And it's like, well, spend the $50, Microsoft, put a disk drive in there, make it $300. There you go. You got a budget title or budget console that most people would be attracted to that can still play current gen games. You know, that's not a bad idea for them. They can take the idea from both sides, from Nintendo, have a slightly underpowered machine, but still able to play current stuff. And Nintendo is not even like, now the conversation is going to be, well, Xbox is getting out of the console business, which they may or may not. Well, that remains to be seen. But Nintendo has never taken that extra step. But I know there's reasons for that. The extra step is Call of Duty. Like, if Call of Duty was on the Switch, I can't imagine how many more consoles they would sell. Because if you could play Call of Duty just out and about, like doing whatever, like, it's a dream for a lot of people, I'm sure, because Call of Duty Mobile is so big as well. But if Microsoft wanted to somewhat solely focus on like the mid-range option and still get that small chunk of consumers who don't want to spend the $500 on a PS5, but have a good slice of their cake and eat it too, then I don't think that's a terrible idea.
And I wonder if this isn't the beginning of like a de-escalation of sorts. If this goes on, because consoles keep getting more and more expensive, executives cry because we don't have enough money, you know, and it's like, you know, whatever. I wonder if like PlayStation 6, say in, I don't know, 5 years or whatever, if all of a sudden PlayStation 6 relative to the time it releases in is actually less powerful than the PS5 is when it released. Does that make sense? Because Xbox has lowered the bar and decided our goal with our console is not going to be to have a super duper powerful machine, right? I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to speculate like this. And I wish I knew a little bit more about like the history of consoles to know if, I don't know if there was ever a time where consoles all like technologically took a bit of a dip or something like that to right the market or something. I don't know. But because it wouldn't make sense from Sony's perspective if Xbox sort of de-emphasized its console, if they made the PS6 even crazy, even better, right? Because they don't have the incentive isn't there to beat somebody else out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like we can make our console a little bit cheaper. It doesn't have to be as technologically advanced because we don't have the same kind of competition.
The only like examples of something like that happening was just axing backwards compatibility on things.
Okay.
Because they, Super Nintendo, what I've heard, I'm not sure if it's true or not, did intend to have backwards compatibility, but that would have tacked on like another $100, so they just said no. But there's been more, because we've had console wars, or what we know them as console wars, there have been more reactives to beat the competition than there have to, pull back on it, because the story has always been better graphics, faster, cooler, whatnot. But we're at this point where we plateau. Like, we can get better graphics, but we're never going to have a jump from PS1 to PS2 graphics like ever again. Like, that jump is phenomenal.
Why do you say that? I'm curious.
Because we've gotten to that point where there's no, like, how much better can we make these games look? Unless you're having people like focus on details like Rockstar was doing, like
or you do crazy resolutions or
yeah.
things that don't exist now.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't calling you out. I just thought that was interesting.
Well, no, yeah, but I'm coming from a visual standpoint.
Sure.
Like,
clearly,
if you look
you know a lot more than I do.
If you look at a PS1 game compared to a PS2 game, it's just that technological jump is insane. But as we've gone through, like, I was making this comparison earlier, but when the Switch 2 rumors came out that it was going to be as powerful as the PS4, there was a reactive towards the internet, like, that's it? Like, as powerful as a PS4? And I'm at work today, and my guys are playing Order 1886 on the TV. Yeah. And I'm like, if the Switch 2 is going to do this, like, are you kidding me? Like, it's insane. It's incredible. You can still point to Ghost of Tsushima. You can still point to Last of Us Part 2. If you told a person this is a PS5 game, they'd be like, yeah, okay.
Oh man, okay, that's a fascinating thought, because I had not thought about that before. Like, what would be the next thing, right? Like, what kind of jump?
So if there's not going to be because the conversation in the last 2 generations has not been how good I mean, it kind of has been, but it's been more of 60 frames a second, 4K.
Yeah, it's been the high resolution and it's been the frame rate, right? Yeah. And I think I don't know, 8K. I don't follow TVs very closely. I probably should follow them closer, but I know 4K is pretty much a standard now with a lot of higher end TVs. I don't know about 8K or whatever, and at this point, I don't know. Do TVs need to be that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And that's all of,
because 4K has just gotten to the point where you had like DVDs and you had enough 4K.
This is such
DVD, Blu-ray players and whatnot. If all of a sudden you introduce a new form, if you introduce 8K, it's like, are you going to have to redo all that again over the course of 10 years? Is that something?
This is such a slippery slope of a conversation.
It is because I'm out of my depth here.
Yeah, well, but I know. And we haven't talked much about like your work, but I know you worked at Best Buy for a bit.
Don't tell me.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay. It's fine.
But I'm sure you've seen the TVs there frequently, like when you did work there. I have my wife plays games on a 2011 Samsung, and when I look at that TV, sometimes I'm like, God, it's still a great looking TV. Like I can't tell if it's 4K but I'm not that specific. Like, do we really need that for the average consumer? Sure, they can look great, but if you have something of quality, it'll last you a lot longer than it will the other models that come out every single year.
Yeah, and oh man, this is okay. Yeah, I don't want to, because TVs are a fascinating thing because they have they became the centerpieces of living rooms, right? And now they are replacing theaters in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, in a lot of senses.
And so if you're somebody like me or you or all of us, I guess, who we like to watch movies, we're kind of all movie buffs in our own way, I guess. I'm going to watch Dune 2 and I'm going to watch it in my home. Well, I don't want to watch on an old TV that I've had for like 6 years. I want the best TV I can get because I'm not going to go see it in theaters. So I'm not going to be able to replicate the theater, but the TV I have in my home, I want it to be very, very nice.
Very good. Yeah.
So it's like, and now how many people need that to watch the NFL? I don't know. People want their TVs to look good, but I don't think they're worried about having an OLED to watch the NFL, right? And that's something that TVs do now that I think maybe outside of like resolution that is worthwhile is like OLED screens or UHD, because you can really see the difference in the blacks and stuff like that when because in certain, I think Sony was the first to do this, but like the blacks on the black color on certain Sony TVs, the TV was off.
Right.
There wasn't any color there. As opposed to like a TV that shows black light where it's like a really, 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 really dim gray or something like that. But anyway, back to...
Yeah, let's steer this back to Xbox. So I think this is great because I've also seen a supposed leak of more games, and there also was another somewhat breaking news alert that the Gears of War series may be coming to PS5.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
So this is the interesting thing because we talked about it already when Microsoft acquired Bethesda, and then we talked about it again when they acquired Activision Blizzard, and we talked about the possibility of Elder Scrolls 6 being exclusive, and I had apprehensions about it. And I was like, I don't think it's going to be exclusive. I think it'd be multi-platform because you've made too much money. Bethesda has made too much money, it being multi-platform.
And all over the place.
Right. And so this is where Activision comes in because we then talked about Call of Duty. And I was like, there's no way you're going to make Call of Duty exclusive because it's just too big on both consoles. Now, this makes even more sense when we have this report because, in my opinion, Activision Blizzard didn't become a $60+ billion company by having Call of Duty only on one console. They did it by having it on both consoles. Bethesda got where they are by having games on both consoles. So if Microsoft looks at that and says we have our biggest franchises,
$70 billion purchase,
like franchises that are kind of, I'm going to use the word dormant. Gears of War, and I saw Halo on the list. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Would be weird. That would be very weird. But if it does happen, how much more money? Like, how many people don't like Xbox for stupid reasons? People don't like PS5 for stupid reasons. But each of them say, oh, if I had that on my console, ooh, I'd play it. How many more people are you going to get to recoup losses or make even more money? Like, too much money being left on the table when I use that quotes.
No, you're right.
Quote, with having exclusives. But I also don't foresee. The only reason I don't foresee Gears of War, Halo, Forza, Fable going on PlayStation is because they still need something to bring people to Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Yeah, and okay, that's an interesting thought because we know that Game Pass has not. Evidence is there that Game Pass has not reduced game sales, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That we know that when on day one, day in release or whatever it's called, it's not like games that like Starfield sold like hotcakes, even though. Wait, did it? Yeah, it released on Game Pass. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
Even though it released on Game Pass, it sold a crap ton.
Yeah, it sold well.
So the evidence right now suggests that that's not a thing people worry about. I don't think Tom Warren also said this. I don't think we'll ever see like Game Pass on an Xbox. I mean, we'll see it on an Xbox.
PS5.
On a PlayStation. I don't know about that. I do wonder. I really think the more interesting thing here is PlayStation's reaction to this because Xbox is doing what it wants to do, and it's full steam ahead. And when it comes to the games, I think there's a lot to be excited for. I'm really excited for Avowed. I can't wait for Avowed this year. But PlayStation, it won a war. And then when it was like, okay, we won, the other side was like, all right, and just walked away. And PlayStation was like, but wait, we get to storm the castle. Oh, God damn it. And they have to figure out like what to do up on this really high hill. They have to figure out, oh shit, well, now that we won, what do we do?
But then suddenly they get joint custody with their enemy's kids.
Exactly. So it's like, do we? I don't know. We're putting our some of our exclusives on PC.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's why I'm really curious about like, do they? Does their console business change or go or scale down? And if consoles scale down, what does that do to games?
Yeah. It's funny to think about because all in the late 2000s, there was conversation about the possibility of a one console future. And it's just funny that it's like, this is possibly the way it ended up. Like, because everybody was thinking PC, but it's like, oh no, technically it's PS5. I don't know. There's two ways it can go. It can go the very bad route and PlayStation rests on their laurels. And they do not put any effort. I think they believe that they want to make great products. So but they could rest on their laurels and just kind of what they want to because no one would not buy it on PS5. But in that instance, they also have the ability to charge what they want on those without any sort of competition as well. And we saw those leaked documents from Insomniac saying they wanted to try like $100 games and stuff like that.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think that was in their documents. So that's something to be worried about. That's the bad route, but I mean the good route is, I mean they could just also rest on their laurels, but just continue to make great games and solely focus on that without having to be reactive in any sort of way to Xbox. Not that they were in the first place, but. Well, it's one of those weird things where I have to sit back and be like, well, we'll see. But also, I'm not a very good like.
I think it may end up being like, if Xbox does take a step back and goes more towards a budget value box, I think it'll end up mimicking the not exactly mimicking, but mimicking the cell phone industry where you're progressing forward. It's Apple really competing with itself, while Samsung and the other companies are just in agreement that they're just going to keep progressing as they can, and Apple's out here trying to be the big flashy thing and doing these big huge presentations, to where it really muddles down to minor incremental updates over time without these big technological leaps, and I think that may be the course if Sony continues to try and push forward and still develop new consoles that go forward because they don't have any competition now it becomes incremental increases
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, and it's not necessarily they don't have competition.
No, but they're
just
not
at their level.
Yeah.
If what we're speculating happens, and I feel like it would have to happen because it wouldn't make sense if Xbox's next console was like $600 and super duper expensive, because then you're selling that at a loss, and you're putting games out on other consoles that Sony's going to take a chunk out of, right? So it wouldn't make sense to do that. So it's logical to assume that they're going to de-emphasize the Xbox somehow, eliminate. I still don't think they're going to get out of the business.
No, I don't think so either.
Because if you get out of the console business, and that, like you pointed out, you're making so much money with Game Pass and xCloud. Don't forget about xCloud. Mm-hmm. That's part of their plans. If you get out of the console business, then that is on PC, maybe on Switch, and then you have to try and convince Sony to let you put Game Pass on their PlayStation. Mm-hmm. So it's like, without an Xbox there, I think that's you're taking the wind out of Game Pass's sales, right? Yeah. And the Xbox Series S is a Game Pass box, essentially. It's like, that's why I don't think they'll go completely. They'll drop their console and they'll go the Sega route, where it's just they publish Sonic, and that's basically it. Oh man, yeah, this is real. I can't wait till next week. I think it's
I was going to say, and we may just be grasping at straws because everything's rumors at this point.
Yeah.
So it could just be, some of their more, I don't want to say family oriented, but more like party oriented games, like Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush, going to another console where the rest of their games are still staying.
And you could find secondary markets like, it could be, and you're right. It could be something like Sony has done with PC, where we're not going to release God of War as soon as it comes out. We're going to wait 3 years ahead.
Yeah.
By the time it's been out on our console for a long time, now it's out on PC. We find a secondary market. We don't sell it for Mac. We sell it for $40 or whatever. And God of War Ragnarok is going to come out, I don't know, 2026 on PC probably. Yeah. I don't know if they've announced it. I'm just assuming. But like Horizon Forbidden West is going to come out or is coming out this year on PC. So it's like they're releasing
2
them
years,
like down the line where they hit secondary markets. And there's still that initial value of having the console to play it the day it releases. Mm-hmm. And then, so maybe they do some, but PlayStation's not doing that with all their games, right?
Yeah. And I'm thinking that's going to be the route that Xbox actually takes, where it's a lot of their tertiary titles start to bleed over to PlayStation as well, and their primary and secondary titles stay Xbox only. I mean, Starfield, it's not a franchise IP.
Yeah.
It's probably, might get a sequel. I don't really, after playing the game, I don't see how you do a sequel to that game, because the sequel is New Game Plus.
I think you could revisit the universe. You could do Starfield 2, and you could revisit the universe 100 years in the future or something like that, and just not worry about the previous game. Because I still think Starfield, I like space, so
Yeah, but I don't think it would end up being a Starfield. Like, it might be under Starfield's name, but it'd be Mass Effect Andromeda, where it's something entirely different.
Yeah.
And it would just be Bethesda's space game.
Yeah.
Starfield probably is going to go over. A lot of their like group games, like their party centric games, getting 4 people together to play this game, probably going to bleed over. But I don't think Gears is going to go. I don't think Halo's probably not going to go.
Man, that would be weird. Halo on a PlayStation. That'd be so freaking weird.
I think a lot of their big franchise flagship games are going to stay on Xbox.
Speaking of Halo, now since we're just in pure
speculation mode,
raw, like eating just a pine cone right off a tree. I don't know why that's.
Are we squirrels?
I was thinking pine cones. Ice Age.
Last dandelion.
That's a great. I don't know where John Leguizamo. But shit, that hit me for a. That made me pause. I don't remember. That shook me. That shook me. I was trying to think of the TikTok thing that shook me. Okay, so if if Microsoft has Call of Duty now, because Halo was once competing with Call of Duty, which is quaint to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose they were, huh?
But
at one point.
Well, Halo was
Glares at Halo 4.
Halo was emulating Call of Duty, and Call of Duty was like, "What are you doing?"
And then Titanfall came out, and they went, "Uh-oh."
Exactly. I wonder if the future of Halo doesn't get a positive, has some kind, if something positive has come out of this, because it doesn't have to be the heavy hitter it once was. That's just me. That's just me being pathetic simp saying, please make it good. Please de-emphasize microtransaction from game I like now that you own Call of Duty, you pieces of shit. Anyway, okay. Have we speculated enough about this? Anything else we want to say?
I would love Gears of War on PlayStation, just saying. I want Horde mode again. I want to play with my friends.
Horde mode. Yes, and man, I can't wait till next week. I can't wait to see
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Okay. We don't have tidbits. We're going to play the sounder anyway because I like it. What if I told you in this world there are bits and there are tids, and Richard is the only man who can put them together into tidbits? Richard, I just want something off the top of your head.
So Apple VR users can't watch porn.
What?
Yeah, they like something like
is
they
this
can't.
The story on Kotaku I saw?
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter first, but yeah, Apple Vision Pro, not the new frontier for masturbatory technology after all.
By Alyssa McIntyre.
Yeah, $3,500 VR headset can't play VR porn.
So it was first reported by 404 Media. The VR porn community quickly realized their favorite kind of content when they read a post. Oculus not safe for work. I'm not clicking on any of these links.
They can't keep getting away with it.
You know what? Apple is so annoying. I don't know. Who's that guy? Casey Neistat? He's like a famous YouTuber
guy.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I saw a portion of the video that he made about it where he like stopped on like a staircase leading up from the subway or something.
Yeah.
To touch air to do because he had the headset on. It was like he was looking at his phone in VR, and I was like, I can't even imagine how annoyed I would be if somebody stopped to look at their phone in the middle of the stairway, but even more if someone did that and they had a VR headset on. For the love of all things holy, can we not have a future where I don't see I don't know.
I have a tidbit about Apple.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the whole like green bubble, blue bubble thing when it comes to text, that exists because Apple refuses to join the rest of the world in its encoding process.
Yeah.
I think I have heard that. Yeah.
Is it SMS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they think they're special or something. Mm-hmm. You know what? That's fine. Apple can do whatever they want, but play games. We'll see you next week.
And watch porn.
Zoom HD is better.